Game Awards is supposed to reward game developers who created awesome games. But what about the games that turned out to be disappointing? We need to give them their due too. So today we'll give their due to 3 games that were a massive disappointment this year. So without further ado, let's begin. So, disappointment of the year number 1. And it is the worst game that I've ever played. Yes, I'm not exaggerating. Now, maybe it is not the worst game in the existence, only the worst I have played. But I'm sure it is out there among the worst ever created. And it was released this year. And I'm talking about Avowed from Obsidian. So what is the problem with the game? Almost every aspect of the game is bad. And those few aspects that are good are nullified by bad game design choices. The visuals and the design of NPCs are tedious. The animation of you and other NPCs are clanky. The game forces you to grind resources and levels by artificially raising the HP amount of the enemies. And by doing that, they severely limit exploration in the game. And you grind resources and HP through doing repetitive fetch quests and collecting bushes in the closed world. And no, I did not make a mistake. The game is not an open world, it is a closed world. You are exploring this closed world not because you want to or because the exploration is good and rewarding, but because the game becomes unplayable if you are trying to just do the main quest. And even if, God forbid, you'd be interested in exploring the closed world yourself, there's almost nothing to explore. There's just empty space with resources that you can collect. Like there's almost no dungeons in the game. If you expected something similar like in Skyrim that you would spot some ruins and go explore the dungeon, it almost never happens. And those few dungeons that do exist in the game are either story related or extremely small in size. Now, if you are interested and want to explore those topics more in depth, I have made 2 videos about Avowed. One a video critique where I explore all the issues that I've stated earlier. And second video that I titled Avowed Mass Hysteria, where I explained why there is a mass hysteria around Avowed, why people perceived and received this game better than it is. And look, now that this mass hysteria partially wore off, now the game stands at 62% on Steam versus 77% at the release. And yes, it should be lower. But when I said that there is a mass hysteria around Avowed, I got dislikes, I got hate, people were saying that I'm spreading lies. But now that the mass hysteria is wearing off, who was right in the end? I was right.
Not to say I told you so, but I do believe that I did, in fact, tell you so.
And if you want to be right with me, subscribe to my channel. Because while almost all the creators on YouTube were coping and forming their opinion on the game based on the feedback from the masses, and not based on their own analysis of the game, I was telling the truth, even when it hurt. Now, let's talk about the disappointment of the year number 2, and we will talk about Assassin's Creed Shadows. And I know it is hard to be disappointed in something where you weren't expecting anything to begin with, but somehow Ubisoft managed to deliver disappointment even in those harsh conditions. My video about Assassin's Creed Shadows is titled as AC Shadows No Lessons Learned, and it is the essence of the game. They release a game that fails, see that it fails, don't change anything in their formula, create another, see that it fails, don't change anything, release the next one, and so on. At this point I would have listened to Voss, their own character from their own game, that said that the definition of insanity is making the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So, by their own definition, Ubisoft are insane. And it is true, but this is not a video about Ubisoft, so let's talk about Shadows. First of all, AC Shadows is a worse version of Ghost of Yotei. They are quite similar in core gameplay and story. And Ghost of Yotei is a worse version of Ghost of Tsushima story-wise at least. So if you want to play a good Japanese-themed game, just play Ghost of Tsushima. But okay, similar to Ghost of Yotei doesn't sound that bad. And indeed it is similar, but it is much worse. The gameplay similarity goes away as soon as you face a foe that is just a couple of levels higher than you. This leveling system blocks your exploration and ruins gameplay, because your strength is disproportionately weaker than of a basic NPC without a name, but with a couple levels higher. This also causes grinding issues where you have to grind resources for upgrading your equipment and the base. Or you can skip the grinding by buying resources for the real world money. Now about the story difference between Yotei and Shadows. Even though both games are about revenge for dead parents, which is pretty basic, but Yotei does something good that Shadows does not. It is the vibes from the game. Yotei is trying to be authentic in cutscenes and music, and AC Shadows is just silly in both music and cutscenes. Just a little example from my own video about AC Shadows.
Why have we stopped? What are you waiting for? Attack! Attack!
Because of that, the experience in Shadows doesn't feel authentic. Now, again, for more information and more details about Shadows, you can check out this video. The link also will be in the description, the comment section, and on the end screen. And now let's talk about the last disappointment on this list, and it is a recent release. Vampire Masquerade Bloodline 2 is the embodiment of disappointment. I have played 2 games about vampires recently, Bloodline 2 and Vampire from Dontnod. And Vampire from Dontnod felt underwhelming, but I have to apologize for thinking that way about the Dontnod vampire, because I didn't know how underwhelming a game about vampires can be. I can't stress enough how underwhelming Bloodline 2 is. I personally dropped the game. The game stands at 57% of reviews on Steam, which is extremely bad if you didn't know. And the game itself is not of a poor technical quality. My PC is quite weak, but I didn't have any massive issues. The game looks good if we're talking about the graphics. Animation qualities are decent, and the art style is decent as well. So it is not like the story with Cyberpunk, where the game was good but it was of poor technical quality. No, the technical aspect is okay. It just feels like the devs woke up one day and decided to make a bad game on purpose, because the issues of the game are on the design level. Now let's talk about those issues. Now imagine you're talking with your friend and he says, "I've played this game yesterday about an elder vampire. He is extremely powerful, 500 years old. His name is renowned, respected, and even feared among the vampires around the world." And you ask, "Okay, that's cool. What can you do in this game?" And he says, "Nothing. You are DoorDashing food to people and delivering packages for Amazon." And even though I am exaggerating, but it is basically what is going on in the game. You would think that playing as an elder vampire, the legendary nomad, you would be powerful and have many supernatural abilities, and you could fight many waves of foes with your legendary might. And that's not what is going on in the game. Well, you do technically have abilities, 24 to be precise. Yes, not 30 but 24, because the top row are not abilities, they're passives. But majority of those abilities are useless, and those that are not useless, you can't really use them often. Let me elaborate on abilities. First of all, out of those 24 abilities, you can use only 4 of them at a time, so you are already extremely limited in your abilities. Now you probably think, okay, I will select 4 useful abilities and play with them. Okay, I thought so too, but hold your horses. You can't just select any 4 abilities. No. You see these 4 rows? These are 4 levels of abilities, and you can only choose 1 ability for each level. So, if for example there are 2 useful abilities that you like of the level 1, you can't use them simultaneously. You have to choose one of them. Why can't you use more than 4 abilities? Why you are restricted in choosing 4 abilities that you want? Because the developers don't want you to have fun in their game. Because they hate you. What other explanations there can be? Maybe that they're incompetent? They don't know what they're doing? Regardless of the answer, it doesn't look good. And some may say, well, you can only have 4 abilities because you don't have enough buttons, and it is hard to operate multiple abilities. Well, no. For example, Hogwarts Legacy also had 4 ability slots, but you had 4 rows of them and you could just switch between them. So in the end you had 16 abilities ready, and they would just have a small cooldown. So you could just juggle abilities and create combos out of them. For example, you could slam an enemy down, but if you lift him up first, then your slam down will do more damage. transmutate an enemy into an explosive barrel and throw it into another enemy, etc. It was extremely fun to play Hogwarts Legacy, and you should have been able to have many abilities in Bloodline 2 as well, so you could combo different attacks and really feel that you are a powerful and legendary vampire, because everyone is talking that you are powerful in dialogues, but in gameplay you are a weakling. I've made a video that I want you to check out. It is called Games Forgot to Be Fun, where I discuss the issue of games not giving players any powers. That issue manifested in Bloodlines 2 the most. So if you want to explore this topic more in depth, the link to the video is in the description, the comment section, and at the end of the video in the end screen. It is an important topic to discuss. Now let's move on. Now, you may ask, so how does the gameplay of Bloodlines 2 feels? Like a clicker game. First, you usually spot a group of enemies. You use your abilities from a distance if you have stealth abilities, and then you try to fight them heads on. Then you get your ass kicked if there is a group of enemies, because they often have assault rifles, and you are a melee fighter, so you can't really crowd control, you just get shot. All you can do is use your close combat abilities if you have them once, and then you can dodge and click the attack button. Usually you get your ass kicked and restart the fight because they just shoot you to death. Now, there's also an option to handle it stealthily, and you may think, well, maybe it is a stealth game and you're supposed to take down enemies stealthily. Yes, it works until you stumble upon brute enemies, which don't die from being attacked stealthily, and then they raise the alert and you get your ass kicked again, and die. Okay, now for the third time, you're clearing the weaker enemies first, and then attack the brutes. Then you're running away from them because they drain your HP faster than you drain theirs. You're picking up guns that the weaker enemies dropped after you took them down, and shoot the brutes. After you exhausted the ammo in the guns, you can use the abilities if you have any. You can use them only once because they don't have a cooldown timer. You need to bite and kill at least 3 enemies to recharge your abilities, for some abilities even 5 enemies. So you see how you don't really have any abilities. So after you use all of the ammo and your abilities, if there is more than one brute, which probably there is more than one, there comes the clicker stage of the combat. You just smash one button till the brutes die. Rinse and repeat this exact scenario, and that's how majority of fights are played in this game. At this point, the guns are more effective. Just give me ammo and the ability to reload. I'm not joking, I don't want to be a vampire in this game. I don't need those vampire abilities, they're useless anyway. Just give me guns at this point. You see the problem? In the game about vampires, you wish to have something as trivial as guns instead of vampire powers. That's not how it should be. Now, the last drop after which I dropped the game was the second boss fight, where they took away even those 4 puny and useless abilities you have. You also have no guns around or anything to throw with telekinesis. You just click one button. Click, 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 click. That was like a spit in the face. After that, I really felt that the developers hate me. And no, not because the fight was hard, because they took away the abilities. The fight was actually pretty easy. It is that they took the last variety the game had to offer, and transformed the gameplay in one of the most primitive gameplay experiences that I have ever experienced. I beat the boss, I watched the cutscene after it, and then I just realized that the game is not worth my time. Now, there are many more things to say. How the story of the game is told from 3 chronological perspectives from 2 characters, which isn't confusing, but it is just exhausting. You just don't want to deal with it. You're going to sleep and you understand that now you'll go through another session of the detective's perspective. It disturbs the flow of the game, and again, as I said, you just don't want to deal with it. And then there are also absolutely sterile romances in the game. Yes, I haven't played them because I dropped the game, but I liked Patience, so I was curious and I watched them on YouTube. Characters exchange with a couple of dialogues. They're absolutely blank, there's no chemistry between the characters, no connections, no path together, and there is no scene, just a fade to black and the deal is done. In short, the game is extremely disappointing from many perspectives and on many levels. Now, even though I can keep on going about Bloodlines 2, I don't want to bore you. It is not a video about Bloodlines 2 solely, but but I think it was important to explain why I think that bad about the game. And that's why I dedicated so much time to that game. And it is because for other two games I have made separate videos for them, so you can watch them for additional information and reasoning. Now, and that's it for today. Write a comment with the games that disappointed you this year. And if you're still watching it, it means you liked it. So leave a like, subscribe, and check out my other videos. See you there.